Okay, so this video or video series, whatever it ends up as, is basically going to be reserved for ideas that I don't think deserve a fully produced video, but I still find interesting to talk about or discuss. I was just planning to write this up and then post it on Twitter, but I thought that since it's been so long since my last bit of substantial content that I should make a video on it while you guys wait for the godforsaken video I've been working on. I haven't abandoned it, but life gets in the way, so I can't really say when it'll get out. I haven't touched it in months, to be honest, but, that's life. I should be able to get onto it more often, soon, because the year is ending, thank God. And if you're wondering why this series is called Community Critique, well, perhaps I'll be critiquing some communities in the future. But today I will be talking about traditional fighting games and how playing them can make you better at Smash Brothers. When it comes to the eternal debate on whether Smash or traditional fighting games are harder to play, the prevailing endgame on these discussions is that traditional fighters edge ahead. A premier selling point on Smash is its lack of input complexity, and that does make it easier to jump into on a base level. Obviously, Smash has its own hole of difficulties, but I'd wager that more than a few of them are unique to its genre, and they can provide challenges in different ways to traditional fighting games that aren't purely mechanical. A lack of perspective on these challenges can get you stuck with them for a long time, as I have in the past. This perspective is something that traditional fighting games can provide, with which you can increase the quality of your Smash game. So, a little note before this is that to all the Smash players that have no interest in traditional fighters, you owe it to yourself to become interested in them. You are missing out on such a wide array of gorgeous looking, super tight games that play so well. For all the reasons that we love high-level Smash play, you should love traditional fighters. It's the same interactions and strategies through a different lens. They're so interesting in terms of how you find holes in opponent defenses and force specific movements via ambiguous move choices. Additionally, from a community perspective, I think we owe the FGC the respect of trying to understand their games. The FGC was here way before we were. And I think it's vital for the coexistence of the Smash community and the FGC, because God knows we ain't actually part of the same thing. We're more like an out-of-control tumor living on the side of the FGC. We just got too huge, But, if you're new and want a nice window into the kinds of things traditional fighting games can offer, check out the two links I provided in the description, both of which break down Evo Moment 37. It's very, very interesting. But back to the point. The inherent problem with Smash, if we're going to start talking about how Smash can limit your progress as a fighting game player, is that there's a bunch of gamey bullshit in the way of properly gaining control of how you interact with opponents, as well as being in the way of how you can understand different states of play and what you should and shouldn't be doing. Smash as a party game requires you to not only engage with multiple opponents, but also traverse a whole multitude of terrain and interact with elements extraneous to the core combat. You aren't locked into a tiny section of the stage with a single opponent. So, the player's moveset, in relation to traditional fighters, needed changes to fit this party context. You're no longer fixed to face your opponent, and you are given way more air mobility as opposed to something like Street Fighter. We can execute different moves out of dashes, change momentum mid-air. It's mechanically a very free-form fighting game, which is, to be honest, one of the most interesting things about it. Despite its defensive nature, Smash 4 really offers a lot in terms of the approaches you can take to lots of different situations. I would argue, however, that there is too much freedom in the intermediate level, in a way that can impede your learning. Okay, so let me put this disclaimer out there first of all. I can't say this video will help everyone. Since we all vary as people, we all vary in the types of roadblocks that hinder us in fighting games. That much is obvious. These are just issues I personally had when growing as a player, so I'm giving my perspective on walls that have hindered me in the past. You might breeze through these issues and have trouble with others. Everyone's different. Okay, let's start with the most easily understandable factor, jumping. Jumping in Street Fighter is a very static action. You have 3 set directions, and when mid-jump you cannot change your trajectory for the most part. This immediately establishes jumping as a method of overcoming grounded advances, but a sacrificial one. You sacrifice your directional control over your character in order to overcome a projectile. Additionally, there is no variance to your trajectory once a jump is chosen. This makes it super easy for your opponent to follow your line of action. coupled with the fact that you can't block while jumping, the game discreetly outlines jumping as a vulnerable action. Smash's freeform nature, on the other hand, obscures this teaching ideal. Jumping in Smash is just as much of a vulnerability, since you can't shield and you get locked in jump squat, but the amount of control you have in mid-air creates an illusion of being non-committal. Additionally, most of our offensive pressure comes from aerials, creating a reliance on jumping to apply pressure. Players can become so focused on using the air to apply offense that they may not realize how much of a commitment it is. Instead of treating it like an expendable resource, start asking yourself if you've earned your jump. In Street Fighter, being too predictable with your jumps will get you blown the fuck up. Properly anti-airing someone is one of the earliest things Street Fighter players learn. In Smash, however, it's possible to bail out of your current trajectory in lots of different ways, making it harder to learn about the danger of jumping as well as how to combat it. Learning about anti-airing in Street Fighter, where it is so concretely outlined, can allow you to properly understand the concept and then bring it over to Smash and simulate it in a way that not only suits a Smash context, but also suits you. Street Fighter is better at teaching lots of other concepts. Oh, out of tea. Yeah, one sec. That's why you don't do everything in one take. But as I was saying, Street Fighter is better at teaching lots of other concepts as well, particularly through how it restricts you. When I first jumped into Street Fighter, I can't say I liked it very much. It felt very stiff, very uncomfortable, like I was moving in purely analog terms. Smash sets a very wealthy precedent for fluid movement, and Street Fighter felt like it didn't have that. Even in general video game terms, it felt like it just lacked fluidity in general. The problem was that I had the wrong expectations going in. When controlling a Street Fighter, you shouldn't view it as freely moving about characters in a video game like you would in Bayonetta. You should view it as remotely operating a toolset specifically made for 1v1 fights. Here I'm going to make a broad metaphorical comparison between Smash and Street Fighter. I would describe Street Fighter in relation to 1v1 combat as a Swiss Army knife. You have everything you need in this device, and you need only pull out the proper tool for the proper situation. Ryu is the epitome of this idea. Got an enemy jumping in on you? Pull out your Shoryuken, an anti-air. Is the enemy outside your normal range but you want to apply pressure? Pull out your Fireball. If you're aware of your opponent's ranges and only need to back up a set distance, all you need to do is tap back on the stick twice to move backwards. Smash is like if you have all the tools in a Swiss Army knife, but all of them are separate, and they're only usable via suspended strings that you must swing in order to use. Since we aren't turned to face our opponent permanently, in order to have a similar backdash, we have to input this dumb flick maneuver for one frame in the opposite direction within the first few frames of a dash. Sheik has the ability to space backwards out of a dash, but it's a 2-frame window with a counteractive order of inputs required. I had to make a whole fucking video on how to do it. We have the ability to do these very basic fighting game things, but the execution barrier for these basic things is much higher. This creates more problems as you get higher up the skill tree. The harder a technique is to do, the less often you'll see it as you go up the skill level hierarchy. Top level fighting games is all about assessing risk versus reward. You can't afford to take dumb risks when your opponent is playing to such a high level and is able to punish you hard when those risks don't pan out. So while perfect pivoting, in theory, is the definitive way to space backwards, why would I risk doing this 1-frame input when simply rolling backwards is far less risky and only slightly less efficient? Everything Ryu, plus most other characters in Street Fighter, possesses has been designed to accommodate very specific purposes, so it's very easy to see these purposes when used correctly. While general movement lacks the flash that Smash is capable of, it's much more conducive to less fluff between interactions. Playing games like Street Fighter, where those initial mechanical barriers don't exist, as well as not having the abstraction of party elements influencing the 1v1 situations, can help display various fighting game concepts in plainer terms, making it easier to learn. Don't corner yourself off to just one type of fighting game. Well, that's about all I wanted to say, and look forward to the new video in the next 3 years.
Yeah!